This is CBC Windsor News. Thanks for joining us. I'm Chris Henson. Katerina is away. Tonight, we'll look at businesses struggling after a drop in international students and what 2025 looks like for people trying to buy or sell a home. But we start with a Windsor family whose 3-month-old baby is fighting for her life in hospital. She's been diagnosed with a potentially fatal infection that her parents say doctors should have spotted sooner. The CBC's Dalton Chen reports.
What was meant to be a merry first Christmas has instead become a struggle for survival for this Windsor infant. 3-month-old Evelyn Hawes Brunel is now at a London Children's Hospital being treated for bacterial meningitis, and her parents are asking why a diagnosis didn't come sooner.
There's so many questions that go through our mind as parents.
But it's not us that had to catch it sooner. We caught it.
It was almost like we were brushed off and, like...
We didn't know what we were talking
about. We didn't know,
about.
that's what we were made out to feel. We didn't want to feel like that again.
Young, dumb kids.
Yeah.
Windsor couple Caitlin Hawes and Quentin Brunel first brought their baby daughter to Erie Shores Healthcare in neighboring Leamington on Christmas Day. Despite Evelyn's spiking fever, the family was sent home. When Evelyn's condition didn't improve, her parents sought emergency treatment again, this time at Windsor Regional Hospital. That's where an MRI confirmed infection of tissues covering Evelyn's brain and spinal cord. Caitlin Hawes says her daughter has since suffered multiple strokes and seizures.
This is a very, very severe case. And they told us prepare for the worst, but hope for the best. They have no idea what the long-term effects are or will be. There is damage in the brain. That is confirmed, but what that damage means, we have no idea.
CBC health columnist and family physician Dr. Iris Gorfinkel says bacterial meningitis is difficult to diagnose due to its rarity and how rapidly it advances.
Consider that, it occurs in about 1 in 300,000 individuals. The symptoms can be like any flu in a child. They often start with nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, sometimes fever, and very young children are often not able to tell us that they're experiencing symptoms that are far more suggestive.
But Evelyn's parents still feel their concerns at the first hospital were dismissed. They're advising other parents to trust their instincts and push for answers.
Everyone makes mistakes. Not every doctor knows exactly what the issue is, but we're supposed to be able to put our faith into healthcare, and if you can't do that, always get in a second opinion and just advocate for your babies.
Meanwhile, Erie Shores Healthcare in Leamington has committed to a third-party review of baby Evelyn's case. Dalton Chen, CBC News, Windsor.
I'm certainly thinking about baby Evelyn at this time. College bars and restaurants are feeling the pinch of tighter immigration policies. Some owners say that a drop in international students is starting to hurt their bottom line. The CBC's Pratush Tayal reports.
Ottawa is cutting the number of international students coming to Canada, and in Windsor, it's meant almost 2,000 fewer international students at University of Windsor and St. Clair College in 2024 compared to 2023, and that is hitting some local businesses hard.
Definitely, we've dropped sales.
Lisa Mulligan took over Sam's Pizzeria this January. She was told it will be a busy place, as it has been since 1946. They hired more staff and diversified menus to welcome international students this fall.
And unfortunately, we did not see the return on the business because the students haven't been in the area. There's less foot traffic. We've talked to other businesses. Everybody's feeling the pinch.
Mulligan says they are down by a third of their sales this year, as international students were key to their business. I spoke with dozens of restaurants in and around University of Windsor and St. Clair College, and they all told me their sales are being impacted due to fewer international students, a situation made worse by inflation.
We've also seen that decline. I think it's been more pronounced in the last month or two.
This 40-year-old family-run business specializes in South Asian groceries. In 2022, it added a tiffin service due to Windsor's growing South Asian population, driven by international students, so that students can still have that connection to back home.
Our tiffin service has slowed down a bit because of the slowdown in international students. Our pickups daily are about the same, but the deliveries, mostly which go to the international students, have gone down about 30%.
Willer says she worries for the future of businesses that relied on international students and urges Ottawa to reconsider. Pratish Dayal, CBC News, Windsor.
We welcome Colette Kennedy now for a Happy New Year forecast. We've got a bit of white stuff. The snow was falling all day, but hasn't really piled up, though.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing. You know, when you work really hard at something, Mother Nature in this case, but nothing to show for it, probably doesn't happen to you, Chris, but
all the time.
Yeah, it seems to happen to me. Let's hope it doesn't happen to any of us in 2025. Well, that's sort of what's been going on since 1 a.m. We've been seeing every hour except for 1, and then this last hour reporting light snow or flurries, but it's just not able to really accumulate on the ground, too light in nature. Still, that's some of that squall lake effect that we're seeing all around the Great Lakes. Areas up near Georgia Bay are going to be hit much harder. That is going to be accumulating. For us, it's just the colder air moving in. -4 tonight, a few flurries, and still some into tomorrow as well. Some sunny breaks I'm hoping for as well. -1 will be the high, but it is going to be getting colder as we move towards next week. I'll have more details on that coming up.
Yeah, that chill is coming. Talk to you soon, Colette.
Sounds good.
New year, new resolution, new house. Windsor's reputation as an affordable city has changed over the years, but what are we looking at for 2025? Katerina Georgieva walks us through some of those predictions.
If you're thinking about buying or selling your home in 2025, here's what you need to know. Experts predict that things are going to heat up in the spring, leading to a more robust market in the following months.
I'm predicting that it is going to become a seller's market again. As you know, interest rates are coming down in the next several months, and that raises the prices all across the board on average.
In November, the average price of a home was about $584,000. Malik expects that to go to $650,000 and up in the coming months. Local mortgage broker Rasha Ingrata also expects things to heat up.
I really think with the new rules that the government has put in place and all the initiatives out there set by the government, I think we're going to see a really good start to the new year, especially February or March of 2025.
She's talking about a number of mortgage reforms. First of all, if your down payment is less than 20% of your home's price, you can now get a 30-year mortgage if you're a first-time homebuyer, or if you're getting a new build. That gives you more time to pay it off than before. Also, the government just brought up the price cap for insured mortgages from $1 million to $1.5 million.
That's going to create and boost consumer confidence. And believe it or not, in Windsor, we are getting up to that price range in certain areas.
That said, there is still economic uncertainty ahead, like a second Donald Trump presidency and his promise to slap 25% tariffs on all Canadian goods once he's back in the White House.
It is going to affect the housing market to some degree, but we're not sure as to how much it is going to have an impact going forward.
His advice? If you're buying, don't wait long because prices are bound to go up. If you're selling, be patient because he says the longer you wait, the more competition there will be for your property. Katerina Georgieva, CBC News, Windsor.
About 48 years ago, a Windsor man led rebel forces into a daunting battle against the Death Star. Angus MacInnes, known for his role as Gold Leader, died this past week. For most of his adult life, including the peak of his film success, MacInnes lived in Great Britain, but movie buffs here in his hometown, well, they've always enjoyed laying claim to him. Now that includes Andrew Kidd. Here he is speaking about the film career of Angus MacInnes.
Red Leader, this is Gold Leader.
I copy, Gold Leader.
We're starting for the target shaft now.
We're in position. I'm going to cut across the axis and try and draw their fire.
He went by the name Gold Leader. It was one of the rebels in the X-Wings who attacked the Death Star at the end. There's a still of him going around of him with Carrie Fisher from the film. Canadian actors in the 70s, there wasn't really an English language film industry in Canada at the time. Most Canadian actors went to the United Kingdom, and they were welcomed there because the Canadian accent had the advantage of being mutually intelligible to both American and Canadian ears. A lot of the famous British actors that acted like Christopher Plummer and Lois Maxwell were actually Canadian. His first movie was Rollerball. That was made in England, but it was by a Canadian director, Norman Jewison. Star Wars was his second major film. Afterwards, he was in another movie with Harrison Ford, Force 10 from Navarone, which also had a cult following. And in Rogue One, they reused footage of him from Star Wars: A New Hope, and it was recycled with newly recorded audio. He was a very recognizable character actor. Apparently, he did return to Windsor several times to make Comic-Con appearances. He also kept in touch with several friends of his from high school in Windsor, which is very neat. He apparently lived his life in Edinburgh, and he did the most Windsor city imaginable. He opened and ran a pizzeria in Edinburgh. It just goes to prove you can leave Windsor, but Windsor will never leave you.
Red leader, this is gold leader.
I copy, gold leader. We're starting.
Nice look back at his life there. Each year, dozens of students from away, they come here to experience academic life at some of the local area high schools. And we asked a few of them what they like and what surprised them most about Windsor. Here's what they had to say.
My name is Lachlan Mingars. I'm from Melbourne, Australia. We have uniforms in Australia. Pretty much every school would have a uniform. Here, casual clothes, I've been loving it. It's great. I've also seen a bunch of squirrels running around. I've never seen a squirrel in my life. It's pretty crazy.
I'm from Spain, and I really like Windsor about like all the difference, like everything is different between here and my country, and I like all the differences, the weather, the people, like the times, the schedules, everything, the food.
Even before like I was like preparing for like coming to Windsor for like a new experiences, like I knew that like Windsor is such a like diverse city, but like when I first came to like Assumption, and also like when I was walking around in like, you know, like in food basics to shop, like I like really surprised at like how many languages I hear in like day, like in an hour. I feel like the difference, and also like including like language difference, and also like appearance, culture, like background. I feel like all those differences makes people beautiful.
Sticking with people who are new to Windsor, Essex, we want to introduce you to baby Jupiter, the honor of being the first newborn of 2025 in Windsor. Jupiter James Timothy Chase Evans was born at 1:01 a.m. January 1st at Windsor Regional Hospital. Jupiter is the third child for parents Marissa Chase and Brandon Evans. His dad says Jupiter's brother and sister cannot wait to meet him. We've had folks with CBC Windsor looking back at stories that they told in 2024, sharing some personal reflections. Dawson Chen on the lessons that have been left behind by tragedy.
Over the past year, I've covered at least 8 separate local stories about the aftermaths of tragic deaths. That involves talking to people picking up the pieces of unimaginable life-ending outcomes. A reality of this job is that those stories, sudden, unusual, needless deaths, are news. And for whatever reason, I covered a lot of them this year. Some of them were young people, teenagers with amazing resumes, bright futures, ended by split-second decisions, crashing a motorcycle, falling off a cliff. Some of them were older folks, seniors, longtime friends and couples, people just starting to enjoy their retirements, struck by errant vehicles while walking. And there were homicides. This summer, there was an entire family, the Walshes of Harrow, father, mother, daughter, son, no history of abuse, beloved by their community. The whole family of 4 lost in a murder-suicide incident. I tell you all this because even after 20 years in this business, these stories still affect me. The random, brutal nature of them still gets to me. I wish I could say that there's something to be learned from these stories, some sort of resolution or takeaway that makes it right. But there really is not. And you'd think I'd be used to it by now, but I'm not. And I don't mean to say these things to make people feel sad or afraid of the world, and especially at this festive time of year. But understanding these stories forces a realization. Tomorrow is not promised, and tragedy can happen at any time.
The FBI now says the attacker in New Orleans acted alone when he killed 14 people with a pickup truck early New Year's Day. U.S. authorities initially said that they suspected he worked with others, possibly planting explosives, but they appear to have ruled that out.
We do not assess at this point that anyone else involved in this attack is involved in this attack except for Shamsa Din Jabbar. FBI bomb technicians also recovered 2 IEDs in coolers. Those are the only 2 devices that we've been able to recover that were functional. Both devices were rendered safe on scene. We did obtain surveillance footage showing Jabbar placing the devices where they were found.
Now, the mayor says Bourbon Street is now safe to reopen. A massive college football game postponed to today has kicked off. Jabbar died after a shootout with responding police officers at the scene. He was from Texas and had served in the U.S. military in Afghanistan. Now, there's much less known about the Las Vegas incident that occurred hours after that attack. Authorities are not linking the explosion of a Tesla truck outside a Trump hotel to what happened in New Orleans. They also haven't established a motive.
We know we have a bombing, absolutely, and it's a bombing that certainly has factors that raise concern. It's not lost on us that it's in front of, of the Trump building, that it's a Tesla vehicle. But we don't have information at this point that definitively tells us or suggests it was because of this particular ideology or any of the reasoning behind it. That's the purpose of the investigation that we're conducting, is to get to the bottom of exactly what happened, why and how.
Tesla is owned by Elon Musk, a major player in the new Trump administration. Police say they believe the person inside the car shot himself immediately before the explosion. There's been no definitive identification because of the extent of the damage to the body, but ID found in the car shows him as Matthew Livelsberger, an active duty U.S. Army soldier. Well, return to work after a holiday break. It can be tough to get through. A fact that doesn't make it any easier is that the highest paid Canadian CEOs made more before lunch today than most will earn this entire year. Scott Peterson has the story.
By 10:54 a.m. this morning, the top CEOs in the country have already made more than the rest of the average working Canadians out there. This is based on a survey by the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, and the average salary of $13.2 million for the very top executives in the country. That means in the first 10 hours of the first working day of a new year, by 10:54, those average CEOs already making more than $62,661, the average salary, wage of a regular Canadian. Now that works out to 210 times more than the average worker, and in comparison, it wasn't always this way. Back in 1998, the average CEO made only 104 times more than the average worker, and if you go back decades before that, that metric was even lower. Now here's David McDonald, he's a CCPA economist, explaining the growing gap between regular Canadians and CEOs.
CEO pay, which is tightly linked to the profits of their companies, the profits of the companies are still at historic highs. They're just not quite as high as they were in the inflationary period of 21 and 22. They're certainly at the high end of the range for all of the years prior to that, but they're slightly lower. And so as we see this link between CEO bonuses linked to profits, profits come down to slightly more normal levels, are still very high, and the bonuses come down a little bit as well.
And this list is pretty exclusively men. There's a lot of men with names like Scott and Michael in the list, and only 3 females in this top list of the C-suite CEOs on the list. But on average, there's the CEOs of GFL Environmental tops the list at a compensation of just over $68 million in a single year. Now, as of 10:54, those CEOs in the top 10 of the top 100 making almost triple what the average Canadian will make in a single year. Scott Peterson, CBC News, Toronto.
There's a lot to think about those 15-minute breaks that everybody gets now. That is it for this break. We will have more on the weather coming up. That chilly forecast from Colette coming after the break. Welcome back. Colette Kennedy joining us again here. You teased us about a bit of a chill there. We're already feeling it, I think, overnight. Something coming our way?
Yeah, I guess it's like, what do you mean, more? Isn't it already chilly? Yeah, a little bit more. All right, let's get down to it. And we'll just talk about what's happening in the short term, and then I'll show you what's coming here in our future as well as we push through the weekend into next week. So the current temperatures, right around -2. They've kind of been going up and down a degree or so, but sitting there. We will drop a little bit more through the overnight. The winds are a huge factor here, okay, because with those winds coming in strong from the west, they'll turn a little more northwesterly tomorrow. But, you know, enough of a fetch that even seeing some of those flurries or a little bit of light snow coming all the way from Lake Michigan. So they're causing some real problems a little bit further north and up towards Georgian Bay with snow squalls. Also, just the sustained winds give us that wind chill, making it feel like we're almost at -10 in Windsor. There's some of that activity, all right, well to the northeast that continues. So getting a little bit of a reprieve, or it's so light at times you're hardly even seeing it now on the radar here into southwestern Ontario. Very localized, but any travel you might be needing to do, perhaps you're going to be heading in some direction, heading back to where you need to be for work or back to school. Just be aware the next couple of days, these will be an issue in these areas. It's a wide area in the pink where we have the snow squall warning, but they do tend to be highly localized. But as those winds shift, it shifts those squalls. And so that's why such a big area has to be in that. Now, in terms of what we'll see through the overnight, yeah, a few flurries kind of now and again, and even into tomorrow, a few flurries at times on Friday. But in between those, we may see some breaks coming through that cloud deck as well and might get some peaks at the sun. So this is kind of the pattern we have moving into Saturday. We should see things improving even more, at least at times, but then those clouds roll back in. It's just that kind of a situation that we have here with that colder air moving in. These are some of the more significant snowfall totals up there around Lake Simcoe. I mean, they could be looking at 60 centimeters of fresh stuff over the next couple of days. So if you don't like it, well, consider yourselves lucky. Southwestern Ontario doing better. If you do, some of those ski hills looking pretty good up there where they're getting some fresh snow on top of what they've already had. -4 overnight temperature tonight, -1 tomorrow, still breezy into Saturday as well. And then it's these overnight lows that are quite cold as we move through the weekend and into next week. And that's what I was kind of talking about, is that colder shot of Arctic air coming our way.
Yeah, that cold, mixing with the sun though, even if it's a little bit, we'll take it out here.
You need the sun when it's like that, right?
Just something nice. Thanks for this, Colette. That's it for us. Have a good night, everybody.